that only 17% of borrowers go back to the same lender.
What's called the dairy button, the red button that I hit.
Hey, remember that?
Right?
And, oh yeah, I love it.
Right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Laugh, Lend, and Eat the podcast. And no, listen. So I use the word special a lot. I use the word amazing a lot. A couple of my friends that have been on the show kind of busted my chops about those words and so on. But this is a special edition of Laugh, Lend, and Eat. So red alert, we've only done one other edition like this, special edition, where we broke our sequence of episodes to kind of put in and squeeze in another episode. So I want to do a little backstory real quick. There is John Perry that you're seeing on the screen. Say hi, John.
Hey, audience.
And John joined us about a year ago. You guys probably didn't see him a lot, but you probably felt him because he was back there producing all of our shows about a year ago. And that's where the growth and the different look has been coming into, the different branding we've been doing. That's all John Perry. When we do our LinkedIn Live and Facebook Live, that's all John Perry. And so he's been behind the scenes doing all the work. So today we're going to make it a special announcement that we are bringing somebody next to me on certain episodes to co-host Laugh, Lend, and Eat, our very own Madison Keenan. How are you, Madison?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. So Madison is going to be joining me on certain episodes that I'm going to put together, certain episodes that she's going to put together. And then we're going to see where this journey takes us. I mean, we're not sure how many episodes she's going to do, but there's no pressure on that. It all kind of works out. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the Grateful Dead. You kind of join the band and you see how many shows you can do. And if you got to go home, go home. You know what I mean? So I think that's where we're going to kick this off. So welcome on board, Madison. I'm so glad we were able to connect and get this thing kind of going.
Me too.
So today's episode, John Perry came up with this idea, and we included Madison into it as well. As some of you all know, I wrote a book, came out a few months ago, called Falling Forward, Mishaps on the Road to Happiness. Thank you, Madison. Appreciate that. And so I thought for Madison's first show, her and John Perry would co-host it together, and they would ask me questions, where John has been so nice enough to put down there on the screen, if you see below me, says, ask Fobby anything. I don't know about anything, but I do believe as long as you stick to the book, I will not take the fifth. If it goes outside the book, I may have to take the fifth on certain questions, as I don't want to incriminate myself, and I've been advised by my attorney, John. So I did check up on that.
I feel like you
so with that, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to act like a guest, and I'm going to turn it over to Madison and John Perry. It's all you guys.
All right, John, you want to start or you want me to go?
Fobby. No, I'll start.
All right.
Your book, Fob, deals a lot with the 2008 crash. When everything came crumbling down on you and how you recovered from that 2008 crash. So I would like to know what advice today's Fobby would give a pre-crash Fobby.
Wow. Yeah. So, that is, the thing is it wouldn't be one, right? I mean, it's got to be more than one. It can't just be one. So it's got to be, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like, in my head, I see like a bunch of them, like I see a book. I'd give him the book, right? I can say, here, read this, idiot. Don't do this. First thing comes to mind is don't take yourself so seriously. I was so serious, and I took everything so seriously, and everything was so personal. And I think that caused a lot of damage that blinded me. Don't sell yourself short. I was always selling myself short on what could actually be achieved. And I was just, accepting, like, if we did this much, I was happy with that. Like, if I couldn't go any farther, I would be okay with that. Not to say that you have to be like super achiever or anything. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there are points in everybody's career where you just can't go any farther for various reasons. But there is a point where we sell ourselves, or at least I sold myself short many times pre-crash, that I just don't do that anymore. And normally, John, I'll be very frank with you. We'll dive a little bit deeper real quick. it normally goes when it goes against my morals.
Mm.
So today, I think my moral compass is probably more in tune with my direction that I'm walking in. And that's what I mean by selling myself short, is if it goes against my morals, I need to really look at it and say, do I really want to do this? Is this really worth it?
You talk a lot about gut feelings
Mhm.
to me. Expound about a little bit on that.
Listen, I mean, I call it gut feeling. I mean, my meditation teacher calls it the universe, you know what I mean? But somewhere along the way, something is trying to get our attention.
Right.
And we need to learn to be silent so we can hear it.
It's important.
I've said this multiple times on different shows. I'll say it on Laugh, Learn, and Eat now, you know what I mean? Which is, the universe is trying to talk to us. We just need to shut up so we can hear it. And sometimes it comes through the gut. Sometimes it comes through one of you guys. Sometimes it comes through something I'm reading. But the universe is absolutely trying to talk to all of us. And the more the people that get silent, the more we hear the universe.
Mm. Great point.
So I'm going to kind of expand or piggyback off of his question. You said, in the beginning, don't take things too seriously. Don't take things too personal. How did you make that switch? Or how did you, because what we're dealing with in our industry, a lot of the times, it is serious. It's a big, large investment in someone's life. Most people work their entire lives to get to the point of owning a home, or, so how did you make that switch of, taking accountability, but also not taking things too seriously?
I think having an attitude that everything's going to work out anyway. No matter how I go into a certain situation, it's going to work out. I may not like the outcome, but it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Right? So it's better to walk into a situation like, I mean, if you're dealing with whatever we experienced this last several weeks where the market went crazy high, right? And maybe people didn't lock in certain loans. That's not a great feeling to sit in, right? No. It's an awful feeling because now all of a sudden, the borrower was counting on your expertise to say, hey, you should lock, you should float. You listen to whatever .com software that was helping you decide to lock or float. Sometimes it was telling you to lock and it should have been floating and vice versa, right? What that means is when the day is over, Madison, and I've done my very best, I need to leave it in the office and go home.
Yeah, don't bring it home with you.
Don't bring it home. You know what I mean? And we all work from home anyway. So, I mean, I got to leave it at the computer. I got to leave it on my phone. I got to leave it wherever it is. Yeah, this is it. Like, this was the best I could do. And sometimes the best I can do is pick up the phone, call you up, say, hey, Madison, I know I told you to float. I'm so sorry, but the market turned on me. I didn't see it happening. Here's a new rate and terms. Do you want to lock in today? So it's about being honest.
Yeah.
Because once I get honest, then the pressure is gone. So hopefully that answers that.
That does. Absolutely.
I think a lot of people fantasize about writing a book. How therapeutic was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was very freeing, John. But it was a struggle also because it took about 3 years from start to finish, right? So it was a little over a 3-year project. So it wasn't anything like I just sat down one day and, over a period of 90 days, knocked it out. It was a lot of starts and stops, a lot of, I'm going to finish it when I'm in Aruba for 10 days. I'll knock it out then. You know what I mean? I'll be alone. I won't have any of my emails to answer to, and I wouldn't do it. There's a lot of push and pulls by different people to get me over the finish line. So it was definitely not a one-man project. I mean, I get to put my name on as the author, but there's a lot of people behind those pages.
Did it? What did you learn about yourself with writing this book?
Yeah, I think it was. That's a really good question. I think the biggest thing you learn, right, at least for me that I learned, right, is that there's really nothing I can't do. Because writing a book is a daunting task, right?
Absolutely.
And so when you go through this, you realize that this is something that's. Well, I probably didn't give myself enough credit till people started calling me up and congratulating me for it. And then also I realized, oh my God, I just did something really big. And that's normally been the way my life has been. Like, I really don't realize what I'm doing until I've done it. And then it's like, oh my God, I just didn't know it was that big of a deal to write a book, but there it was.
It's
And obviously,
amazing.
look, I mean, look, when you're writing the book, you're digging and digging and digging to try to find what happened, right? At least I was. And so there was a lot of uncovering. And that's what this book really talks about, John, is that so often we go to these seminars or whatever they are, you know what I mean? And you get rah-rahed for like 36 hours and you get pumped full of this, laser lights and people on stage and smoke. And you just write down all these notes and vigorous notes, and you got all their books and tapes, and you're going to want to change, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, and really we just got to stop that madness and say, you know what? I'm already exactly who I was supposed to be. All I got to do is uncover who I am.
Yeah, kind of collect your thoughts and your mindset.
Get your mindset
right.
Just uncover who you were supposed to be from the day you were born. And stop putting stuff on yourself that, oh my God, I'm supposed to wear a tie, I'm supposed to wear a suit, I'm supposed to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go jogging for 5 miles and be a vegan. No, just uncover who you're supposed to be.
And the response has been so cool. You have a great story about an Australian book club, right?
Yeah.
Out of the blue, they just chose your book.
Yeah.
Book of the month, right?
Yeah.
They loved it. And you went back to make sure that this wasn't the 4-star book club that gave everything a 4-star, right?
I wanted to verify. I come from the Trust but Verify Club.
Right. And it was, in fact, you got a legitimate 4-score perfect book score from the book club.
Yeah, they said it was kind of what Madison was saying early on, that it was an easy read. There wasn't anything complicated about it, and there was strong messages that kind of guided them through the book.
But how cool is that? It wasn't even about this book club had nothing to do with mortgages, right?
Well, the book itself is not about mortgages.
No, it's a business. It's a business store. It's a business, but it really is. It reads like a Stand By Me movie where there's just a lot of anecdotes and life lessons.
Madison, do you know that movie called Stand By Me?
I do.
I wasn't sure because you got to remember, John. She's a little younger than you and I, so you're giving some titles. I mean, I don't think she was born when the movie was actually released. Madison, am I right about that?
Yeah, I wasn't born for half of this book. But then I started getting in. I'm like, so like 2008, I was like, where was I in 2008? I was in like middle school. But I still do remember, like, weirdly enough, I do remember that time period because I feel like when it was like, I guess I was 7th grade, 8th grade. Like, we just moved into a new house at the same time. I'm from like a big blended family. So like, I could just relate to a lot of what you went through storyline wise. So one of my questions was going to be, one of the themes that I think I picked up a lot on the book was the feeling. So there was 2 things. There was imposter syndrome, and then there was the being so independent and being so good that you never, ever, ever want to ask for help, but you're that resource for everyone else where you're constantly helping others and people have no problem coming to you and asking you for help. And I think it's kind of like a power struggle when you really think about it, between the imposter syndrome of, I don't know what I'm doing, in the beginning when you first started working for your brother. And then as you started to get an idea of, okay, I know what I'm doing, but then you were going through your own financial struggles. And it's like, how could I be of service to people and teach them how to, manage their money and invest their money when I'm struggling behind the scenes? And then on the reverse side of it, there was also a large part of you that was just trying to figure out, okay, I don't know everything. At what point, how low do I have to get before I finally just, decide to ask for help? And it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
Everyone asks for help. Some of the most successful people are the way that they are because they ask for help, and they don't care about asking for help. It's second nature to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are all great points, Madison. And the reality is that, each stage had its own challenges. So, I mean, even when you don't know, right? And so you have to put up, that's when that imposter syndrome, or what I know there's different variations of the imposter syndrome where you pretend to be somebody, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's the imposter syndrome that you were referring to, but definitely when you don't know and you don't want to ask, so you have to pretend to know, which is really a hard job. I mean, it wears you down, right? Because you can't ever get caught in that syndrome where somebody, or that moment where somebody says, hey, Fob, how do you do this? And like in that book, when we talked about that, the good faith estimate, and I was being wrong with my closing cost numbers, but I wouldn't know how. I mean, because I wasn't asking anybody.
Yeah.
Until that one senior loan officer took me to the side and just corrected me. And you know what I mean? It was just like, it was a moment of like clarity. Like, but even then, having that moment of clarity, I reverted back to the old self again. So it wasn't like that moment changed me forever. It was like, okay, I got this now. I don't need any more help again.
Yeah.
So it goes back and forth.
Yeah. And do you feel like now today, are you less afraid to ask for help, or even, okay, so you get help, but then you're like, okay, I got help. I will never go and ask that person for help again, because now that same shame of not knowing things comes back of like, wow, they just taught me, like, am I stupid? Like, why am I not understanding this? How are you today when it comes to asking for help?
I think obviously I'm better, but am I as good as I would like to be? Probably not. Right? Let's be honest here, right? I still
even with the podcast.
Huh?
Like the podcast, you always told me, this is like a new world for you.
Yeah.
And
but
you
I
had
mean,
your trials and
but
errors.
even if you know the story of the podcast, I mean, I just opened up one day, had no idea what I was doing, and just started like doing interviews. You know what I mean? It was crazy. I mean, when I look back at the first 5 to 10 episodes, I mean, I'm beside myself. Like, what was I thinking?
But you did it, and that
but I
makes the
did it.
difference. Most people don't do it. They think about doing it, or they're too afraid to do it. And
Right.
You're like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it, and I'll figure it out along the way.
But I will say there was some key people: Josh Pitts, Jason Frazier, Christine Beckwith, that were in my corner, that I knew that I could always call on with questions about the podcast if I had any. So I can't.
You were open. You were open to asking for help.
Yeah.
Okay,
Without asking for help, they were all helping, and that was the beauty of it.
Well, Fob, you're a huge proponent of coaching.
I am.
And this book is like a literature coach. You can read it and get lessons from it for sure. But I mean, you formalize the asking for help through coaching, and you coach as well. But I mean, how many you have like 15 coaches in different areas of your life, right?
That's hard, but over the life, I would say,
yeah.
But so it's really interesting if you really think about what you just said, John, right? So coaches get paid. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if I pay you for your help, then you're not, I mean, it's like, this is a two-way street.
I see. Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if it's free, it's unconditional. You know what I mean? Is this a relationship or is it a transaction?
Right.
And so in the last several years, I've tried to come to grips with, this is a relationship, and this is what you do when you're in a relationship with a friend, with the wife, with the son, whatever. You know what I mean? It's a relationship, so there aren't any no one's counting transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a much better life to live like that.
Got it.
All right, I got a question about the DeLuca.
Yeah, DeLuca. Yeah, Mr. DeLuca. Yeah.
The DeLuca method. So
DeLuca method.
DeLuca.
Poor guy. He was really a nice guy, man.
So I like that story. Essentially, you were doing something that was working for you and it was getting the job done. And then someone essentially comes over and shows you, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. You're making so much extra work for yourself. Stop going backwards, keep moving forward, do it this way. It's more efficient. It's more productive. And so you essentially named this the DeLuca method. And you talked about, applying it to other areas in your life. So can you give another example of a more recent time that you've maybe applied that method?
Yeah. I mean, I think the podcast, since you already referenced that, I think the podcast is absolutely that, where we are planning ahead. The DeLuca method, for all the people that don't know what it is there was a snowstorm back in 1983 that dumped like 36 to 40 inches on the DC metro area. And I was shoveling snow, and Mr. DeLuca, who's the owner of the company that hired us teenagers to go shovel snow, had taught us to do 2 shovels at a time, one to the left, one to the right, then move forward. And I was just doing 1 lane. And then I'd come back and I'd do the second lane. I thought it was faster, more efficient, to your point, Madison. I thought I developed something that was, for me, yeah. I didn't look at it as anything that was going to be a deterrent. Mr. DeLuca took a disliking of my method, he, but he wanted me to do it his way. When I did it his way, it was actually more efficient and it was more productive, and we got it done quicker. So really, what it is if you go out and you do things the right way to begin with, you don't have to ever come back to repeat them.
Mm-hmm.
And so really, when you look at like most of my life, I've done that. Now, when I started my own mortgage company and it got successful, I forgot the DeLuca method. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of a sudden I was doing my own thing again. And I wasn't asking for help. I was a star of the show. I was the director of the show. I was a writer of the show. You know what I mean?
The power of authorship, basically.
Yeah. And so it was definitely a crazy moment where it was like nobody could tell me right or wrong. I wish Mr. DeLuca had been around then and kind of straightened me up like he did on that cold wintry day in February '83. Yeah, it would probably save me a lot of money and aggravation, right? Great question, Madison.
Fob, where can we purchase this wonderful book?
Oh, that's a great question too.
Yeah.
Such generic questions over here. I'm diving deep.
How do we get our hands on this book, Fob?
So you can go to Amazon.com. That's really the best way to go. Type in my name or the book, Fobby Nagmi, or Falling Forward, Mishaps on the Road to Happiness.
Looks like.
And you can get the paperback, or you can download the ebook into your, I guess it's Kindle, right? Is that what it is?
It is.
Yeah. Or you could go on to fallingforwardthebook.com.
We'll put a link.
We do have a website.
Yes.
And it's on the website, by the way, John, I don't know if you know this, but we are giving away chapter 1 for free.
Oh.
You can download as a PDF the 4 experiences.
Excellent.
And so that's something that I think that people should all read as much as possible. So the 4 experiences are absolutely at no cost. Just download them, enjoy it. If you want the rest of the book, then there's a link on that website, fallingforwardthebook.com, and you can follow that link to Amazon and order right away.
Is there an upcoming audiobook planned?
There is one planned.
Good.
There is. I'm hoping
a lot of us, especially from the podcast world, enjoy our audio. Okay, great.
I just gotta get a few more things out of my spectrum, and I can start working on the audiobook.
Excellent.
That was going to be my next question. Is there going to be an audio version?
Yeah, I mean, it is.
I like binge read this though. Like, I don't know if it's just me. Like, people binge watch TV shows, and I get that way with books. So once I put it down, I cannot stop, and it's all I'm thinking about.
Let me ask you a question, Madison. I mean, when you say binge read, I mean, what causes you to do you binge read all books, or was this book in particular one of those books that you binge read?
Not all books. It has to capture my attention.
Okay.
So kind of like, with TV, I feel like, at this point we got our phones where our job requires us to be on our computers all day. We go home, we're prone to just turning on the TV and watching the TV aimlessly for hours on end. So it kind of like desensitizes our generation, if you will.
Okay.
In a sense that it takes a lot for you to, even looking at like the shows that they're putting out nowadays, it's like they have to go the extra length, the extra mile just to capture someone's attention because it's been done so many times. So with this one, and with some other books that I've read, I binge read in the sense where it's just like you want to keep going and you want to know, like, even I got probably halfway through where I was highlighting and I was, marking my pages and bending my corners, and then I was just like, oh, screw it, I'm just gonna keep I just kept going. So towards the end of it, there's just no notes. No.
The reason I asked you that question is because when I was writing the book, I read a book called The Giver. I don't know if anyone's ever read that. I forgot the name of the author. Someone gave it to me as a present in Indianapolis. And so for the flight from Indianapolis back to my airport in DC, I finished the entire book. I think it's like an hour and a half flight.
Yeah.
And so when I was writing this book, I literally said, okay, I want to write a book that if somebody gets on a plane and starts reading my book,
This
They
is
can
that book.
they
You
can
could
finish it
finish
before they land. You know what I
100%.
mean? Yeah.
And that's why, so there's Glennon Doyle is one of my favorite authors, and she wrote a book called Untamed, and this reminded me structurally of that, where I was saying to you before, I love the fact that it's not long, overdrawn, like you got to read the whole chapter to get to the main point of it. You
Mhm.
like slap me in the face with the message in the beginning, and now I'm like, wait, what did he just say? And then you're like, I got to keep reading, because a lot of it was just like unbelievable, or not unbelievable, you know, unfortunately, but it's just also like I give you a lot of credit because you were really vulnerable. And I think, you know, I can't speak to this because I'm a very emotional person, but I think for a lot of men, especially men in business,
Mhm.
it's got to be 10 times more difficult to put yourself out there like this, especially in the industry that we work in, where, you know, people are coming to us because they look up to us and they
Mhm.
think that we're the professionals, we're the experts when it comes to managing money and making these great real estate investments and predicting the future of where interest rates are going. You know, we're like the magicians, the mortgage magicians a lot of the times. So I think it's really awesome that you touched on a lot of things. Like I said, as I was reading this, there was so much of it that I could relate to,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially as you were talking about, you know, how you got to where you are and where you started, so your roots. And I, you know, I'm now in my 4th year in the industry, 2nd year licensed.
Mhm.
So I felt deeply a lot of what you were talking about in your first coming years of everything. And it's like the trial and error and, okay, looking back on like, where did I make a mistake then? And how can I learn from it? And what's my fault? What's not my fault? You know, there's just so many things that
Yeah.
go into it.
It's
So
interesting you mentioned the vulnerability part because honestly, I almost pulled the plug on it 4 days before the release date.
you're like,
Literally,
oh shit, like people
yeah,
are
like I was like, it's
really
too
know
much.
the ins
I
and
called up,
outs of
yeah.
my life. This is
I
all of me.
I was talking to Candy Zolkowski. I was like, Candy, I can't do it.
Oh, I love
He's like,
kids.
it's too much. It's
Mhm.
it's just too. I'm just dumping too much. I'm exposing myself too much. And
I
you
think
know,
that's the beauty, like the best part of it is that it's so raw and
yeah,
like,
I mean,
yeah,
I didn't. I guess what it is. I mean, Madison. I guess when you start writing, and you gotta try to get the message across. And to your point, like I don't want to belabor it. I want to get right into it
mhm.
because it's like this is the way it happened. Like there was no slow walking into success, and there was no slow walking into the ruins. They were
Yeah,
both
it was
very
like you woke
fast.
up one morning and this was the current situation of your life.
Yeah,
Like that's how each chapter flowed, where it was like, all right, I'm going to talk about this, and then now we're in 2008, and boom, like I'm have no money, you know, whatever the situation was.
yeah.
It was like you felt it as I don't know. I thought it was great in a
That
lot of just
was
the
exactly what I was
style,
trying to get
right?
across. Was like this
Yeah.
impacting thing that was happening because I think most of us in life, by the way, and I don't I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of us that I've spoken to since this book has come out, we all experience life in those same jolts.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when something happens, good or bad, it's a jolt.
Yeah.
You know, and we become more consciously aware of it the more jolts we get. Like, oh, that's a jolt.
Yeah. And
Oh, that
instead of
just
like
happened.
diving into it and like dwelling and like dissecting it, you were like, this is how, like, this is what happened. This is what happened in the following couple things. And obviously for you, it probably felt like years and
Oh
years
my God, it
before
was
you like
horrible. It was
Tom reading it in like the small scale of the book, but like I'm sure that these times were not short and quick, but how they happen and how quickly your life can turn and change.
that's the beauty.
That
I
was,
think
yeah,
I think that's the beauty of life is that you never give up. You
no.
know, if anything, I mean, and I talk about it a lot, and that's why I mean, Candy actually named the book. I think, quite honestly, I think I made a joke of it. Here's what happened.
I was gonna say failing forward.
No,
You could be falling and failing because it's like almost just like kind of like
yeah,
a
but
combination of the two.
because originally the book was actually gonna be called Laugh, Lend, and Eat. Believe it or not, that was the original title of the book, Laugh, Lend, and Eat, right? That's how the podcast came around.
Okay.
And Candy was like, I don't really feel it. I don't think that's a good name. I said, yeah, because I think it was football season.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody talked about how a running back falls forward to get that extra half yard. And I said, you know, we should call it like falling forward, ha ha ha. And she's like, that's a good title.
It is. It
And
is.
that's
though.
literally, I think, how it happened.
Yeah.
It was just like, just if you're going to fall, at least fall forward, get that extra half yard to yard. Maybe you'll get the first down. You know what I mean? But don't fall backwards if you can, because you're going to fall. So might as well fall forward. And that's really how the title came around.
Falling Forward, Mishaps on the Road to Happiness. FallingForwardTheBook.com, Amazon.com to purchase. Bob, thanks for being our guest today on your own show. We appreciate it.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, John. Thank you, Madison. Awesome
Thank
first show for you.
Looking
Okay.
forward.
Great job, man. All right.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of Laugh, Lend, and Eat, the podcast. You can now enjoy Fobby's article, Laugh, Lend, and Eat, featured in the Vision magazine. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where each month, we are giving away some swag for our lucky listener to show off. Thank you to our sponsors for their continued support, First Option Mortgage and One Good One Recruiting. And remember, you have to be something, so be kind.